Hello, and welcome to the United Devil with me, JB. Hope we're all doing really well today. Today is the 1st of July. I'm hoping that my internet connection stays well. Where I am, the connection is awful. Not that I can't afford it, it's just that where I am in this office is absolutely awful. So hopefully it stays okay. As I said, I hope we're all really well today, 1st of July today. Ironically, it is Garnacho's 21st today. Do I wish him a happy birthday? No, but he's 21 today, which just goes to really show how bad we've handled it, and the fact he's only 21 years old, and yeah, it's not looking good in terms of that. Anyway, the main reason of the show today, as has been reported since yesterday, and no doubt across the various other YouTube channels, Rashford potential swap deal. So, according to reports, we have been in discussions with Aston Villa for Ollie Watkins. Now, I would love to know what your opinions on this are. So, Arsenal apparently had a little bit of a cheeky 85 million bid for Watkins, turned down in the January transfer window. I never thought he was worth 85 million. It's coming up for 29 years old now. Now the thing about this, so on the face of it, so Rashford needs to go. I personally would much prefer money for him as opposed to letting him go, as I can see what will happen, because we do need that money and we need to sell to buy. So as a club where we need to sell to buy, and I do understand we need to be creative in our deals that we do, but I would much prefer personally Rashford go for cash. Now he wants to go to Barcelona. I just don't think that move is on, because I think that the Barcelona want to basically have their cake and eat it, as they do with most things, even though they pull levers and basically get to do whatever they like. They basically want Rashford on a loan deal and basically don't really want to pay for him, want us to pay half of the fee. And that's not going to happen. It can't happen. If it was I think, as I said yesterday, Rashford going to a Barcelona would only work if we get a loan fee. If Rashford goes, they're willing to pay the wages. He has a really, really good season. He goes to the World Cup. He comes back, and then we sell him. Now, the chances of that, I think, is 50-50. I don't know if Rashford can discover that form, be on loan, come back and actually do anything and actually be worth any value at all. I would love to sell this player and get the money, because we need to sell to buy. We ultimately need to sell to buy. Now, I don't know what your opinions are on this. Rashford, do we need to get him out the door at any cost? Mark Harris. Mark Harris is in the chat. Legend already of the chat. This is worse than Mills and Boone. Still have a mug. Cash burns at the club. Amrin will walk, or P45. We can get on to that. And that's your favorite thing. But that's fine. We can talk about that. But I'd love to know, Rashford, what do we do with this player? I personally would like to get something for this player. A bag of sweets, even, I think would be good, but I just don't know what we do with this player. So I think the likelihood right now is a swap deal. So Ollie Watkins, what do I think of this player? I think it's very much up in the air. Will he come into a team where ultimately are they going to provide him the ability to score goals? I know we've got a number 10, and we can come on to the Imbermo thing, which again I think is embarrassing. Again, maybe. Do you know what? I don't disagree with that. I think Hoyland. I think anything there, I think is definitely an upgrade on him. So I think this might be the best way all round. Watkins is a proven scorer. Last year, I don't think he did very well. I also have a slight opinion on Villa as well, um, as to the danger potentially of the Watkins signing. But the season before that, he was only second to Salah. So as a player, I think Mark in the chat is right. I think he's in total upgrade. Hoyland is. I wonder if we're going to keep him. So I wonder now if that's the Jokeres deal done. I do think we need two strikers and Hoyland as a backup. I just don't know. I do think he needs to go. If we can get rid of him, we need another striker. Now, my fear is this. So Watkins, 85 million was the price quoted for Arsenal. Now, what's changed between then and now? Now, as long as we can do a swap deal when we don't pay anything for Watkins, I'm not opposed to it. I think he'll come here. I think he's a proven Premiership striker. He scores goals, and I'm not opposed to that swap deal. If that's the only thing that's on the table to get this player, to get Rashford out of the door, to get him elsewhere. But my fear is he's going to drag his heels. Now, my other concern is Emery. What does he want to get rid of? A proven scorer, Rashford. The fact that he likes he likes Rashford and would much prefer him in his team than a Watkins. Is there something there that he knows that we don't? And I just don't want to take another cast off. I do not want an expensive cast off player on a 5-year deal. If we can get this done, if we can, even if it's a 200 grand a week deal, maybe it's two plus one. So if we're not going to physically pay cash, can we do a two-year deal plus one? I think it takes him into what will be 33, and then maybe in that fourth year or even in that third year, if he's on the decline as strikers can do, then at least we're covered ourselves. And he's not here for 5 years, and we've got another 2 years of 200 grand on a player that doesn't play. So that's my immediate concern about this deal, is as long as it is structured right, then I think that it would be a good deal to do, and I'm not opposed to the deal. So I wonder what you guys think of this. Do you think that Rashford to go at any cost? Do you want to do that deal? Would you take a bag of sweets for him? Watkins, do you think he's, in light of Watkins, I don't then think we're going to do another striker deal. I think that's it. Would you be happy with that? Would you be happy that over an Osherman, the Jokeres deal, Shesko? I just think that this is I think it's a money saving deal, which again we need to do. I'm not a big fan of this. I'm never comfortable. I'll never ever be comfortable what Ineos and the Glazers have done to this club. The fact that we are now having to go back and take players who have been cast off from the team. Now, I was looking back, so I might do some shows, possibly over transfer windows over the last 20 odd years. So starting off with 92, 93 season. Now, we used to take players. So need to bear in mind that so when we signed players, we used to take them from top teams. Like we used to just sign players. And I'm not saying that we always got the players that we wanted to sign, but we used to go into teams. The Cantona deal, for example, Leeds had just won the old League One, and we went in there and we took their player, who was a revolutionary, was an era all by himself. And we took this player from Leeds who had just won the league, and now we are going cap in hand to the likes of Aston Villa. Again, there's no disrespects to them. I'm not gonna sit here and start saying that we're a massive club, we're the biggest club, because we've got to take our place. We might be big and we might have the best fans, but right now Aston Villa are in a better position only in terms of their current team. PSR, they're screwed, so they need to get rid of players. This is why I'm really surprised that for PSR, Aston Villa to do this deal. So I'm almost of the opinion: do they want a Rashford plus cash? Now, if that was the deal, then I think as a club we've absolutely fallen. We again will get our pants pulled down. We'll give him a 5-year deal, 250 grand a week. He's going to ask that because he knows this is the last big contract that he'll have. We'll be giving him a Rashford potentially who could, if he falls in love with the game again, then he could basically do well and then become another 80 million pound player. I don't think he will, but there's potential there. So again, are we going to get our pants pulled down? Now, my other theory on this is, say Watkins comes into the team. Okay. My biggest fear, one of my biggest fears, is that we are going to need another striker. So if Højlund goes, of course, pants and panties, to be fair, because we could be either or, so that's fine. I stand corrected there by Mark Harris. That is true. Pants or panties, or if we go commando, we'll just have it all hanging out there. Is that we are going to need another striker. Højlund, we can't keep him. I just can't see him fitting into the system. I don't think he really wants to be here. He might say that he does, but I don't think that Amrin wants him in his team. So therefore, we're going to need another striker. So we've got Obi. I think he's too young to lead the line, but I wouldn't mind him in the team. David Beckham by the I'd be Bex is too busy with his American team, isn't he? So can you imagine the smell of dupe everywhere? It'd be, oh god, that smell of dupe reminds me of I've been a teenager when you're on the pool or when you're trying to, you're like in a club. Must have smelled awful. Jesus, I hate the smell of that. And what's the other one? The one with the sailor in the blue bottle that absolutely stinks. Anyway, so we're going to need another sign of striker. Sorry, and my fear is Vardy is still on the market. Calvert-Lewin, I believe that Sir Jim is obsessed with this player. I know that we tried to sign him or we were linked to him, and I just think that potentially we're gonna spin it up and get Calvert-Lewin. I'm convinced until proven and until he's off of the transfer market. I am absolutely convinced, and you can quote me on this. You can tell me I'm stupid. Mark Harris, Sir Jim is 60 meters away from a nursing home. Honestly, I just wish he would retire. I don't wish anything ill on him because that's not nice. But being an older gentleman, I think he should retire. Which is, I've seen something today as well, which actually he might retire on. So we can talk about that as well. Calvert-Lewin, I'm convinced. I'm absolutely convinced that he's gonna come to this club at some point. I'm just convinced he'll be free. He's got Ineos written all over that deal. Calvert-Lewin up front, give him 150 grand a week just to sit on the medical table with Luke Shaw. They can be best mates. They can talk. We can have our panties pulled down, and I can just see this deal happening. Vardy, again, until these players are gone off the market, I'm so convinced that Ineos are like asking them just to like hold up until the end of the window. I can see a transfer end of it with a Jamie Vardy unveil or a Calvert-Lewin. So I'm just hoping that that's just not the case. But who knows? What else has Mark said? It's concerning only one proper signing, mucking around with no world-class keeper, no signing. It is. I agree with you. So a lot of these naysayers or Ineos supporters, today is the day that they were going to unveil the transfers. They were going to cook today. They were hanging around for today. But as Mark said, there, other than a deal that was open that we did in Burmo, we can have it. So on that, their director of football came out yesterday and basically told us to pay up or F off, effectively. So the club the size of that, and again, no disrespect to them. So we're being held up by a club who knows how to do their business, who are efficient. You know, they might be smaller. They are what, a tenth of our size, which is not a criticism of them. They are able to basically control a deal, and we supposedly have best in class and whatever else. And we're going to go in for a number 10 who's actually a winger who's had what, one good season or two good seasons. I'm not saying that he's a bad player, but for us to be held up by a club of that size, instead of going in there, getting the deal done, trying to hold up. And we've taken 5 to 6 weeks again, and I'm so tired of this deal. As a player, it's not the player's fault. In Burmo, it is not his fault, but I'm tired of this deal. That's all we seem to talk about. That's all. That's the error every single day, and all these other channels and wherever else. And it's not a thing of them. They've got to keep regurgitating, and I'm trying not to regurgitate this crap because it's just going to get stupid. And this player is still not here. I'd be expecting him to be here, but so Brentford are basically, again, they've got us by the balls, and they're saying to us, well, if you don't sign him and you don't pay us whatever we want, he's basically just going to stay here. Whatever happened, we've got to get this deal done. It's like when you go to a shop and you think, like, you go to buy something and you think it's like a price, but you really, really need this. The shop knows that you really, really, really need this. And you can't leave that shop until you've got this thing. And that's what's happening here, is they know they've got to get this deal done. Both clubs know we've got to get this deal done. We've spent so long on this deal, for this deal to collapse right now because a smaller club, and it doesn't mean they're a worse run club. Factually, they are a smaller club. So for them to pull our pants down, again, that term, but it's true, for them to completely mug us off, for us to pay what they wanted in the terms anyway, to take 5 weeks to do that, it's just unbelievable. And this window, I absolutely know this window that apparently we've planned. And again, I'm going to regurgitate myself from yesterday, is that this is since April, apparently we've had this window plan. I'd hate to see this plan. Is it literally on an A4 sheet of paper that they've basically just scribbled names over, and like they've shoved it up their arse and just gone, yeah, it literally, I think, is just a sheet of paper that they've gone, oh, like, he looks good, without talking. Like, I don't think they seem to realize they need to be talking to clubs months before, or even the year, just to try to figure out if they can get a deal, try to get a figure out of the landscape, what it is that they need to do. It's almost like they are learning on the job. They've had 12 years to do this, and whoever is negotiating and in charge of these deals, it has to be said, shoot me down, but I don't, Mark, I don't, it's not that I disagree with that. And So the Greenwood thing, right? When he was here, there is no doubt he had so much potential, and I agree with you. He is a better player. Like I if he'd got his head down, I mean the things that kid could do when he was here, and the goals that he scored at that young age, he's probably better than Obi. Um, I just don't think there's a doubt that he is a class player. I think that he is a fantastic player, and again, the mishandled it. No, 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 no. I don't. I don't think it is a waste. I think that these are conversations. Do you know what? I think these are conversations that we need to have because as much as okay, we all heard the tape, and from a personal perspective, how you feel about him. Okay, fine. Let's park that. If we're looking at players that we had, players that we are looking at, are they good or better than players that we've sold? Are they good or better than players that we had? These questions need to be had, and we need to hold people accountable to the standards. So the Greenwood, if we're looking at him as a player, are the players that we are trying to sign, irrespective of or whether he's good or he could come back, but using him as a football comparison, are the players that we're about to sign or trying to sign as good as him? And I don't think they are. Like up front, they're not. Like Hoyland, we paid 72 million for him. I mean, it's just on the Fred thing. I mean, I never thought, right. So, never a big fan of Fred. Not good enough, in my opinion. But boy, do we need his like energy. I mean, as much as I don't think he was great. That sort of player, not necessarily the skill level, but if you could get that engine and that sort of player to run around, we'd kill for that sort of player now in the sort of midfield. In that, and I'm not comparing him to him because he can't compare, but into that Park Ji Sung kind of player, whereby he ran around in a. And if I'm back yet, I'm back now. Told you my internet is shocking. Alanga, I think that potentially, I think any good club would have seen the potential in him because he was absolutely rapid, great player, rapid. But again, we kept other players over him. McTominay, again, these are players that had ambition. These are players that had ambition. These are players that wanted to go, and they've done well after they've left. Did we underappreciate these players whilst they were here? They didn't necessarily fit into the squad as we had it, and we were led to believe that these players weren't the greatest of players or the best of players. But again, that's a failure of the club. That's the failure of the management. That's the failure of the people that we employed. The failure of the managers that we had to have this team of players. Imagine if Alanga went to a club and was given game time and the freedom, and lo and behold, that's what he did, and now he's worth what, 50, 60 million. Fred is Fred. I mean, I've got no issue with Fred. You know, I kind of like Fred just because I think he was all right. And so McTominay, again, he's left, and look at what he's done. He's exposed. He said a number of times what the club was like, and lo and behold, he's gone to a team, played the position that he's supposed to play, and he was the Italian Player of the Year. But we still, Martial in his heyday, 100% Mark. I think that Martial in his heyday was better than what we had. He was better than what we had, but injuries killed his career. He was. Well, he came to us when he was at 18. The first goal that he scored, he was an absolute. He was a beast, and then he got injured, and then I think some things happened, and even though at that time we weren't successful with these players, if you fast forward and look at the team now, are these players better than those players? And they're not. We've actually got worse. So there are a couple of bright sparks in the team. I think Heaven, I think, is a really bright spark in the team. Um, I think second, other than my back, thank God. Honestly, apologies, it's living in the third world. I've got this office, and it seems to whatever reason the signal just completely drops, and it is just absolutely ridiculous. But again, shockingly bad. I am back, shockingly bad. Honestly, I've got a new router coming, so shockingly bad. So um, I think that was Mark said now. Every game, no mention for Cheeto, Branson Internet. No, it's not actually. It's Vodafone, which it's like fiber, and you've got like 150 meg. But I think my hardware and the router that I've got is absolutely turgid, is absolute crap. So I'm going to see if a router fixes it. Anyway, that's enough about my internet issues. Um, I do think Amarin is scared of playing the youth. Um, I think at this point, I think if next season starts off, I think how we all think. I don't know what Mark thinks in the chat. Um, I think if we take 2 points and it's a possibility from the first 4 or 5, then I I just don't know. My fear is this, right? Is that we sack him. I don't disagree. We sack him, and where do we go? So I know we spoke about this yesterday. So we've got the likes of Carsley, but then what do we do? And that's my fear. I don't know what I would do. I don't know where I would go, and I don't know where this club would end up. Now, yesterday I saw something that says that so apparently the club would walk away if they don't get the funding for the stadium. Now, I would be happy if somebody would create a petition to stop this. Now, if we don't get funding for the stadium, for the circus tent that is the stadium, because obviously the Glazers, who pay absolute zero tax in this country or pay limited amount of tax, they will have their cake and eat it. I do you know what? I don't disagree with that either. I think that we almost need to start again. I think, as Mark said there, I'd have to go to play the whole of the. Yeah, I mean, but again, though, they wouldn't be that brave, would they? And I think that's a really interesting point to raise. Obviously, we need experience in there. But last season, as an experiment, would we have been better off playing a whole team full of kids with maybe one or two in there? Well, we're never going to find that out. I don't, I don't think that necessarily we would. You know what? Right? I think you're right. As a fan, as much as an idea, I think is absolutely crazy, and you wouldn't know, and we'd be up and down. But at least we'd have players who would be playing for the badge, right? We'd have players that would give a shit. We'd have players that would play every single week. We'd have players that would play for the fans, and it would be up and down. It would be exciting. I would rather have a team full of exciting players. Okay, they'd probably lose quite a lot, and do you know what? We probably would have gone down. I'd rather that than as a fan theory or a concept, I would have much preferred that how you want to play for this club, you know, but they would as a pie in the sky. You know, I'm to the point now where something has to change, and as Marcus said there, the mercenaries in this team, as it's been proven, you know, Anana to a certain extent because he won't go because he's not going to get paid, and you know he must play at the club. Rashford, who apparently, you know, he's come through this club. He knows what this club means. He knows what this club is. You know, he knows the greats of this club, and he thinks he's up there with these players. Is just, you know, for somebody who is, I'll come back to that point as well. And for somebody who has grown up with this club, who wants to hold us to account, and we can talk about contracts, okay? And I've spoken about this on a number of occasions. Is it's not the player's fault if we've given them a contract. Sancho, for example, I don't even want to waste time on him. I think he's a. I'm just trying to think of a word that's nice. I can't, so I won't say a nice word about him. He's come here for the paycheck. He hasn't come here for the badge, right? Mercenary completely. And all these other players who won't go from a moral perspective, from a moral fiber perspective, who should know what this club mean. People have died for this club. Like, we had to rebuild this club. So we've got owners who bought this club just as a paycheck, who don't know what the club means. And that feeds through to the players. That feeds through to them, that they don't care. And when you've got a management team or owners that don't care and set standards, you know, the youth, we sign all these players. And to go back again to Mark's point is that Mainu last season, again, overhyped in the press. You know, again, I do think that the press has a hand here. You know, Mainu, don't get me wrong, could potentially be a good player, but he could completely fall away. You know, this season, if he doesn't have a good season this year, then where does that leave him? So Toney, I mean, that kid looks like a unit. Apparently, there's going to be like some sort of loan deal, but I'd much prefer to have him. I'd much prefer to play him, but we're too scared. And I think that what I think happens is that Amarin knows, and I think Mark Harris has sort of got it spot on here, is that our managers come in with these ideas. All right. So the first season is, you know, they want to play their game, implement the game. These mercenary players, these low IQ players, kind of decide, okay, fine, you know, we can try to play this. And then towards the end of the season, this panic stations, they're sinking, they're losing. So season 2 is about survival. And Amarin already is in survival mode. So then what tends to happen in survival mode is they go back to playing what these players play. They go back to doing what these players can do to survive, hoping that eventually they can sneak in what it is they're trying to do, and these players will respond. These players will never respond. These players, I'm not including the new players, I'm not really including the youth players in this, but until these players are cleaned out, it's like a cancer. It's like a cancer. And until we get rid of it all, our players are going to keep getting infected. And I think we had a really good opportunity to get rid of Fernandez. Whether you love the player, and I know players do, I don't dislike the players, but as a way to sort of cleanse that room and get 100 million, probably 120, like 150 to go and get players that want to play for this club. It was a missed opportunity. And what's Mark Harris said, 14 managers scored at Amarin last season. Everyone has to change. Now, to that point, so let's just think about this point, right? Is that I don't disagree with that statement, but what's going to happen is I don't disagree with that. So let's just say that Amarin, and again, I spoke about my red flags about him last season. The fact that he lost so many games, the fact that he wasn't able to, I've been the first to say these players, you can't train these players. They're low IQ. They can't change their game. They can't do this. But the fact he hasn't been able to implement something to these players, that's a red flag to me, right? Because you're going to improve a player, even if it's a percentage, right? Like a small percentage, you can improve these players. And then for me, one of the biggest red flags was that final. No disrespects to Spurs. Spurs were awful, but we were even worse. Captain went missing. So now, and then when we're talking about the losses in the league, and apparently we're trying to do things a particular way, unless something changes, what's going to have to happen is he's either going to have to change that team to a degree whereby there is none of last season's players in there, and they respond to him, or Amarin will have to change his system, because we can't go and start next season, because as much as Ten Hag was awful, I think if we'd have kept him, we could have got to the end of this season, and there's no way we would have finished 15th, and I think we would have had a better chance to win the Europa League final. Okay, so there's two things, and I think there's only two things. The players have to respond. He has to get basically a team which he's not going to get. And we'll see as well if the board back him. And I think you're right, Mark. I think that one of the characteristics that doesn't go down well, which is what Ollie, and not to go back to him, he wasn't stubborn. Okay, he was a spokesperson for the Glazers, but at least he was kind of open. Stubbornness. Van Gaal was stubborn. Jose was stubborn. Ten Hag was stubborn, and Amarin is as well. Now, Amarin for me, and I think this is another one of my red flags as well, is that he's taken it to another level on the basis that he's devalued players. Now, I think he's between a rock and a hard place, but that should be coming from the board. That should be coming from our management team. But he's put himself in that line. He's accepted that responsibility, and he's going to pay the price for that. He's also put Fernandez. There was an opportunity to get rid of that, and unless Fernandez performs, and I mean every single game, and season, he's basically already got one foot in the grave. Doesn't mean that I don't want him to be successful. Doesn't mean that I don't like the manager. I think there's potential there, but I don't think he's done himself any favours at all. So signings wise, as Mark Harris, Watkins signing, a goalkeeper, and Grealish would be a 7 out of 10. Grealish, I agree with you. I think he's a maverick. I really like the player. I just don't think that we could do that deal. I really think that we could. Now, what will be funny there, Mark, basically, is if Watkins we signed, Villa player, Martinez, Villa player, and the Grealish one, a Villa player. So what would be interesting is if basically what we want to be is Aston Villa. And not that that's a problem, because they finished us up the league. Mount. I'd have him over Mount any day of the week. In fact, I'd take a packet of crisps over Mount. Mount is awful. Chelsea were absolutely, I bet they couldn't believe their luck. I mean, how we bought Mount, knowing that he was injured. Question, and actually, Mark Harris, you've actually made an interesting there. And actually, Amarin, or I think Mark would say, when gets sacked, because the chances are there's a very good part of that that could happen. Would Emery? Would you take Emery? I know Mark Harris would. I mean, the way that he's turned Aston Villa around, and the way that he's got players playing, and the way he's brought players through, and what he did with Villarreal, not Villarreal, was it Villarreal or Seville? I know he had that blip at Arsenal, but that was Arsenal. But what he did there, he did improve them teams. So there's something there. But would Emery come? That's the would he come to United? And that's the question that but I'm also not confident that we don't forward plan and who's next, because as it stands right now, and it's the first new financial window, what players are out there other than Mbermo? What other players are we linked to? What other talks are we having? What are we doing? So Amarin already is as far as I'm concerned already fighting to hiding for nothing at all. So does this mean the board is backing him or not? So we'll soon see what's going to happen there. The other thing I wanted to mention was Wharton from Crystal Palace and Edison from Atalanta. Pie in the sky. I think this is spin. So, is there any coincidence that we haven't done a sign-in in a couple of weeks? The new financial year's just hit, and lo and behold, like every other bloody year. And again, you can time it, okay? Because United are all about clicks and social media and whatever else, and we're linked to two players that they know that we want. Wharton, considering we can't sell players, we haven't got cash. I mean, that would be an absolute crazy deal to do. North of 70 million. Just think about this. How in the hell would we afford that deal? Would you want to come? I mean, it's just utter nonsense for clicks. It's been put out there, I think, by the club to basically just say, look over here. I don't want you to see what's happening over here. Just look over here. Get fans talking again. Get fans thinking about the plays that we could have when it's just not going to happen. Exactly. Agree with you. All their focus is are shirt sales because the shirts come out, I think. And that's all they care about is the commercial side of it. Now, the problem that we've got is that our results on the pitch haven't hit them in the pocket. Now, until that happens, like with Stadium, they're never going to sell. But this is a commercial club, and what they do is they try and spin us around, and that's exactly what they've done with this, with these two potential deals, apparently. But there's nobody saying that we're talking to them. There's nobody saying we're being linked to players. For the next 2 weeks, we're going to be linked to Vinicius Junior. We're going to be linked to all sorts of players, but it's not going to happen because they can't get the finger out and they need deals. Now, at this point, I wanted these players in already, okay, for the manager. So there's no excuses, because what I don't want this year is excuses. I don't want excuses for the manager. He's now made his bed. Okay. As much as he needs to be given time, last season wasn't his fault. Okay. As much as it wasn't his fault, this is number two. Okay. This is his season, his window. And he said that they've had the targets. There can be no. And they say can't play his system. Then he's got no excuses. So what I don't want for Amarim, I don't want there to be any ambiguity. I don't want there to be any, there's an excuse. Oh, we can get these players in April. They've said that they've had their window planned. So whatever they do, I'm taking it as this is exactly what they plan to do, and they're confident that Amarin can get the best out of this team. And this is what I don't think people are talking enough about, is that Amarin, if he's happy and he gets the players in and he says that he's happy, Fernandez, he made a big call on that. He didn't want to get rid of that player, so he's made a call there. He's going to make calls on all these players. So if he's happy in August with these players, then there's no excuses. There's no excuse for them not to be playing the system. And if this is what he wants, then he can't then turn around and say, well, actually, I didn't get the things that I sort of asked for, whether they were plan A, B, C, D, whatever it is. If he's happy, and unless he comes out and says, I'm not happy, we didn't get the targets that I want, which no doubt he's becoming a mouthpiece. If he doesn't come out and say, I'm not happy with this window, then he's going to have to suck it up and see. And I can't defend that. What is it there? Amarin system, 5 at the back, play from the back. It's wingers. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? So it's a wing back. He doesn't really play with wingers. So this is from what I understand of the system, is that he plays with wing backs. So he wants hard-working wing backs who bomb up and down, and we play through the centre. So we have 3 centre backs. So it's a pseudo back 5 that can reshape when they need to. So the whole point is that when they attack together, and then they defend together. But you are reliant on energetic, hard-working wing backs. Okay, and then obviously, then what you can then do have that one of the centre backs kind of almost act as a defensive midfielder as well, which then allows your number 4, number 5, 6 to push forward. So you're constantly, the plan is basically just keep to attacking, but we were playing with wingers last year, and this whole system relies on wing backs, relies on those wing players bombing up and down, and relies on centre backs knowing how to play the system as well. But also number 10s also relies on Fernandez not sitting in that position like a quarterback and being disciplined and working with that defensive midfielder, that number 4, potentially to move up and down, move through the lines. But that's not what's happening. And I don't understand why, if you've got a player, okay, he's got a low IQ, but if you say to him, you got to sit there, Fernandez, you sit there, don't effing move from this position. Your job is to do this. Okay. Then why is Fernandez not listening? And then he does it the next game. And then he does it the next game. I think that's exact. I think you're right. I think it's a play on that, is to basically overwhelm the opposition. But then when they get the ball, they can't counter attack on you because you're kind of playing that higher line, and it relies on them having fast strikers for a ball put like over the top. But then the whole point of that is to have centre backs who are quick, who are comfortable being like on their own, who are comfortable. So you're right, but we don't have the personnel to do that, and we still don't have the personnel to do that. So we do need a left. I think we need a left back. We need a right back. We need a centre midfielder. We need another striker. Are we going to get these deals done in the next 2 months? Sell players? 100% not. So again, this is what I was talking about yesterday. And I apologize. This is a regurgitation of a lot of this stuff, but this is stuff that we need to keep on talking about. In Bumo, for example, and another days go back. I agree with you. I think these players, if we had the same players this year, they will down tools and they will get him sacked. They will down tools and they will get him sacked. I can see a situation where Sancho is still here, holding on to contract. Rashford still here. If those players are still here, they will infect the dressing room of the brand new players, unless Cunha can turn around and give him a slap, or somebody can turn around and just pull this team together, then again they will down tools, sack him. Agree, agree. You know that we're the fact we've got players wearing an Aston Villa shirt. Rashford did an interview with some Spanish social media stuff without the permission of the club. Where is the comeback? Where is the respect? What power do we have? We empower players. We should be empowering fans. We should be empowering the team, not not empowering these individualistic awful players. And this is the situation that we're in. And I've seen other people saying, and I'm not going to name names, give them times. The structure is changing behind the scenes. It's going to take time for them to change. We need to change these players over. They're trying to do this. They're trying to save a penny. They're trying to save a club. Show me that. Taking 5 weeks to get a signing done so you can potentially try and save some money to just then pay whatever the selling club wants. So Garnacho, agreed with you completely. He should be banned from that club. He should be banished completely. He should be moved out of the club. His stuff gone, and he should be basically nowhere near this club. After what he's done is an up yours to the fans. Fans should be, not right. My internet is telling me to stop the show now because it is winding me up something chronic, and I'm going to have to go fix it. Thank you to those who watched. Thank you to Mark Harris, who is already a legend of this chat. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversations that we have. What I try to do here again is that as much as we can have some wild opinions, that's the whole point. Like the fact that we're going to have conversations about players. Why don't we just get rid of the whole team? These are the conversations that we need to be having. Different opinions. I don't want to stop that. As wild as they can be, as long as we're polite and we respect each other's views. I don't see why we can't have these further chats. Because this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is yours. This is my chat. But before we go, what I will say, what are my feelings on the manager? Right now, the jury's out on him. I think that Cunha, 100%. I think he's a great player. Watkins, he'll be good as well. He'll grab the team by the scruff of the neck and he'll literally tell them to pass on the ball. Amarin, the jury's out on him. At the very start, I was defensive of him. I was a bit like, how can you have a manager who doesn't have his own team? You've given him a load of slop. We used to play in a particular way, and now we're expecting these players to come in and play his system. At the end of the day, he took the job. Okay, he took the job, and I'd be expecting some improvement in some shape or form. Fernandes, honestly, favourites again. With Ten Hag, he had the same favourites. I know as a manager you have your favourites, but when possibly the Fernandes deal has cost us 150 million, he's going to live or die on that. Amarin for me right now is I don't want to sack another manager, but I'm on the fence right now. I don't lean either way. I really want him to succeed. I think he's the right guy at the wrong time. And he needs to be ruthless. As Marcus just said, he needs to get rid of some of these favourite players. He needs to get his head down. Fergie, and I'm going to go back. One of the last things I will say on this, Fergie, and no, we can't keep going back to the past, but we need to go back to the past to move forward. Because if we don't, we're going to be stuck in the same old crap, right? Fergie got rid of these are some of our best players. Right, so some of the players that he brought through, some of the players that did amazing things for him, Beckham, but Keane, Ruud van Nistelrooy, you know, he got rid of these players because, you know, Yap Stam, you know, he got rid of these players, even though they might have been at the top of their game. If they weren't right for the club in any way, shape, or form, they went. Amarin accepted this job, and I know he is trying to get rid of these players, but they need to go. He needs to set a standard, and I think, as we said, it needs a bomb squad. It needs to get rid of these players so other players know that if you do anything to disrespect your teammates, disrespect this club, disrespect the fans, which are the fans are the most important. Without fans, you don't have a club. If you disrespect those fans and disrespect yourself, you disrespect your teammates in this club, you're gone. Find yourself a move, otherwise you're gonna rot. And that's what we need to do. But the club won't allow him to do that, and I just don't think that we will. But I think Mark's right. I think we absolutely need a Fergie. We need a hitman. We need somebody to do something to shake up the squad. Amarin, does he have the inclination and does he have the power? I don't know. I'm going to leave it there just in case the internet dies. Again, thank you for those who've watched. Thank you, Mark Harris in the chat. Again, mate, you are brilliant. I love your views. You know, maybe we don't necessarily fully agree on them, but I can absolutely see where your mindset is. Thank you so much. Again, I want to do some more shows, but I just don't want to regurgitate crap. I might do one of an evening. Maybe we can just have like a question, like an answer, maybe put in some of your viewpoints, maybe stick in some of the things that you've seen through the day, and let's just talk about them, because there's nothing happening, and I don't just want to do a show for the sake of it. You get sick of me. Again, I don't want to be another person who just comes on and just, you know, make shows for the sake of it. So again, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe to the channel. Try and get this out there to as many people. Try and start as many conversations as we can. I want to build this community where you can truly come on here and pretty much have your opinions, as long as we are respectful of each other's views. There are going to be some views that are out there completely. You may disagree with me, and that's absolutely fine. We can talk about it, and it's absolutely cool. And it may, yeah, agreed with you. Anana, if he stays, will play every single game, and Hoyland as well, which is terrifying based on last season. Anyway, guys, I will see you later. Feel free to message, feel free to make comments in the chat, and I will hopefully see you very, very soon, guys. Have a good rest of your day and take care. See you later.